So, today we're going to dive into the anatomy of a revolution gone horribly wrong. We're talking about George Orwell's classic, Animal Farm. We're going to trace how a beautiful dream of freedom and equality curdles and collapses into a complete nightmare of tyranny.
You know, this is the story's most chilling line, its final, twisted law. And it just begs the question we're going to explore. How on earth did a revolution that was built on the purest ideals end up right here, at this total cynical contradiction? Well, let's get into it.
All right, so to really understand the revolution, we have to start with the problem it was trying to solve. Our story kicks off at Manor Farm, and let me tell you, it's a miserable place, all thanks to its neglectful, drunken owner, Mr. Jones.
I mean, the reality for these animals was just bleak. The wise old pig, Old Major, he laid it all out. Their lives were basically slavery. They produced everything, the milk, the eggs, the hard labor, while man, the only creature that consumes without producing, just took it all. And this wasn't just some casual observation. This was the spark that was about to light a fire.
And that spark, it came from Old Major's dream. Right before he died, he gathered all the animals and gave this incredible speech that planted a radical new idea in their heads, a world completely free from humans. He didn't just diagnose their suffering, he gave them a prescription for the cure.
After Old Major passed, the cleverest animals on the farm, the pigs, took his teachings and flushed them out into a whole system of thought they called animalism. And its real power? It was brilliantly simple. It pointed to one single enemy, man, and offered one single total solution: get rid of him. That kind of clarity, well, that's what made the whole idea so dangerously effective.
And this was the core of the message. A call to action that just sliced the world cleanly in two. This wasn't about asking for better conditions. This was a demand for a complete overthrow of the whole system. That one word, rebellion, became this shining promise of a golden future.
You know, the funny thing is, when the rebellion finally happened, it wasn't some grand, planned-out event. It was more like a flash fire. One day, Mr. Jones got drunk and just forgot to feed the animals. Pushed by pure hunger, they broke into the food store. And when Jones and his men came out with whips, something just snapped. In this furious, spontaneous uprising, they drove every single human right off the farm. The victory was total, and the animals were just ecstatic. You can imagine the scene, right? Their first acts were so powerful and symbolic. They threw all the whips, the nose rings, the ribbons, every symbol of their slavery onto a bonfire. And then, in the biggest move of all, the pig Snowball shimmied a platter and painted over the name Manor Farm. It was now Animal Farm. The land finally was theirs.
Okay, so they've won. Now, how do you make sure this amazing new freedom actually lasts? Well, the pigs, who had cleverly taught themselves to read and write, boiled down the whole philosophy of animalism into 7 unchangeable laws. This was going to be the constitution for their brand new republic. And there they were, painted in huge white letters on the side of the barn for everyone to see. These 7 commandments were the sacred heart of the revolution. They spelled it all out: who the enemy was, a total rejection of human habits, and it was all built on these 2 incredible pillars: no violence against your own kind, and absolute total equality. But you know how it goes, that perfect, glorious dream, it starts to crack almost immediately. Right after the victory, the very first subtle signs of a new kind of inequality started to pop up. The disease was setting in.
Get this. The very same day they wrote the commandments, the cows produced 5 buckets of rich, creamy milk. But when the animals came back from the fields later, the milk was just gone, vanished. It seems like such a tiny thing, right? Just some milk. But this single act of theft, this is where it all starts to go wrong. Yeah, the mystery didn't last long. The milk, and pretty soon the apples too, were being mixed right into the pig's food. And when the other animals started to grumble, this brilliantly persuasive pig named Squealer was sent to smooth things over. And here, we see the birth of the propaganda machine. He doesn't use logic, he uses fear. He says, we pigs are the brain workers. It's for your sake we need this stuff. If our brains fail, Jones will come back. And what can you say to that? It's terrifying. It worked. So you've got privilege established. What comes next? A power struggle, of course. The disease starts to spread. And this took the form of this bitter rivalry between the 2 top pigs, Snowball, the visionary idealist, and Napoleon, the quiet but fiercely ambitious one.
Napoleon's takeover is just swift and absolutely ruthless. First, he gets rid of his political rival.
During a debate, he unleashes a pack of vicious dogs he'd secretly raised, and they chase Snowball off the farm for good. Then, he just abolishes democracy itself. No more Sunday debates. After that, pure terror. He stages these public executions, forcing animals to confess to crimes they didn't commit before having the dogs rip their throats out. And for the final blow, he erases the very soul of the revolution by banning their anthem, Beasts of England.
Now, to justify all of this, the pigs didn't just break the laws, they literally rewrote them. When they decided to move into the farmhouse, the other animals were like, wait a minute, what about no animal shall sleep in a bed? But when they went to look at the barn wall, they found this little addition. And Squealer, of course, had an explanation. He said the rule was only against sheets, a human invention. The manipulation of history had begun.
And once you start changing the past, it just gets easier. After those horrific public executions, the animals were shaken, sure that a commandment had been broken, but a check of the barn wall revealed another tiny change. The words "without cause" had magically appeared, retroactively justifying Napoleon's reign of terror. The law wasn't a protection anymore, it was an excuse for murder.
And the pattern just kept going. After the pigs found a case of Mr. Jones's whiskey and Napoleon got a nasty hangover, what do you know? The fifth commandment had also been tweaked. Squealer had actually been seen near the barn wall with a fallen ladder and a can of white paint. The gaslighting was now complete.
And that brings us to the endgame, the terminal stage of the disease. The revolution isn't just corrupted anymore. It has been completely eaten from the inside out by the very thing it fought against, leaving just this empty, cynical shell.
One day, the animals woke up and looked towards the barn, and the wall had changed again. But this wasn't another sneaky little alteration. This time, all 7 commandments were just gone, painted over completely. The entire constitution of Animal Farm had been erased. And in their place was this one single new commandment. It's the ultimate piece of propaganda, isn't it? A sentence that uses the language of the revolution, equality, to enforce its exact opposite. The betrayal is finally out in the open, written in plain sight for everyone to see. The pigs aren't even pretending anymore. And so, we end up right back where we started. The journey from all animals are equal to some animals are more equal than others is complete. Animal Farm is just this timeless, brutal warning. It forces us to ask, what are the things that allow a fight for freedom to turn into a new kind of slavery? And, maybe more importantly, how do we stop it from happening? It's a question that's just as real today as it was when Orwell first wrote it down.